Hello, I'm Andrew Pritchard, and thank you for watching today's Corn Belt Regional Forecast, brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. So we look at the jet stream on Friday morning. We continue to just watch this area of high pressure, this ridge off to the west, and I can't get enough of this nearly symmetrical clockwise flow around that area of high pressure off to the west here. The monsoon certainly in full swing across the southwest, and this has been pumping in a milder and a less humid air mass into parts of the central and eastern Corn Belt, and we're going to get a reinforcing shot of that, and that's what we'll be talking about here as we head into next week. Jumping ahead 4 days, looking at the look of the jet stream on August 6th, we start to see this thing kind of, the area of high pressure begin to get pinched in kind of a northwest to southeast elongated look here, doing something more like this, bringing northwest flow into parts of the Corn Belt here. And this is going to bring a shot of some showers and storms to some very dry parts of the Corn Belt here early next week, but I don't think it's a pattern that really lasts and bring any sustained precipitation into, again, parts of the Corn Belt anywhere from Iowa into the eastern Corn Belt that badly needs some precipitation. Looking at the temperature forecast here for the next 10 days, the first 5 days are on the left and the 5 days that follow that are on the right. Again, as we begin the weekend, we've had this cooler air mass in place across the region. We are starting to moderate closer to more typical, more seasonal averages or seasonal levels here across the Corn Belt as we head into the weekend. But again, as we head into next week, getting a reinforcing shot of this cooler air mass into parts of the Northeast region, or parts of the Corn Belt region. I apologize there. We look at the precipitation forecast, then we're looking at the European ensemble forecast here. The week 1 precipitation look on the left. Again, we see the higher precipitation across parts of the Central Plains, but as you look at this, the remainder of the Corn Belt, anywhere from the Central into the Eastern Corn Belt, really holding on to a drier look over the next week. So you look at week 2, we want to see the ensembles, or we are seeing the ensembles kind of take on a more optimistic look across a big chunk of the Corn Belt, from the Dakotas into parts of the Central Corn Belt, parts of Iowa and Missouri, keeping closer to average across the Eastern Corn Belt, but I would lean drier here. I'm not so convinced from parts of Iowa into Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio of those week 2 rains here. I know that we're going to have some scattered precipitation as we head into the early part of next week, but really as we look at the 7 to 10 day forecast overall, it holds on to a drier look, and this is a familiar feeling here, pulling up the week 1 and week 2 precipitation forecast here. We kind of continue to see things, want to be optimistic, see the ensembles look optimistic in the week 2 time period, bringing more widespread rains into the region. But as we dive into this forecast, you'll see why I'm not totally convinced of that just yet. The next 48 hours, or the last 48 hours of precipitation here, we've seen corridors of very heavy rain across parts of the Central Plains here near the Kansas and Missouri border with training thunderstorms. And what I mean by that is clusters of thunderstorms where they're just going over the same areas repeatedly, really stacking up some higher precipitation totals as you look off to the color bar. The remainder of the Corn Belt, though, from Minnesota through parts of Iowa into the eastern Corn Belt, the eastern Great Lakes here, or the western Great Lakes, keeping things very dry, and I think this is a look that continues overall for the next 7 to 10 days. Looking at the last 14 days, the departure from normal, again, we see a couple corridors of very dry conditions really setting up, and this is a similar look if we look at the last 30 days. Parts of Iowa into the eastern Corn Belt here, quite dry, drier conditions off to the north kind of setting up, and then parts of the Central Plains here, of course, have been quite dry. Where we're getting some relief is right in this region here with these thunderstorms late this week heading into the weekend. We're going to get some relief across this region with a front sinking through early next week, but again, we'll kind of dive into things, and this is an area that we'll have to watch as we head into the later parts of the summer that kind of are increasingly in need of precipitation and increasingly, continually looking like they're going to be left out over the next 7 to 10 days. The radar picture here on Friday morning, here are the showers and storms across the Central Plains. I've got an area of showers and storms across parts of the Dakotas as well, but dry across the eastern and central Corn Belt. Really a beautiful morning as we wake up here on Friday. The satellite picture here, we're looking at infrared satellite, so the cloud top temperatures. And again, you can kind of make out the flow of the atmosphere, the clockwise flow around this area of high pressure. We've got an upper level disturbance here tracking through the southeast region, bringing widespread showers and storms to that area. But again, as we look, west from Iowa and Missouri, or east from Iowa and Missouri, really a beautiful morning as we wake up here across the central and the eastern Corn Belts. Clear skies and a nice crisp air mass in place. I'll look at the surface map here on Friday morning. Here is the area of low pressure that is responsible for the showers and storms across parts of the central plains here. But again, high pressure, this is what's responsible for the beautiful sunny skies and the crisp air mass across parts of the central and the eastern Corn Belt into the Great Lakes here on Friday morning. You can also see kind of the reasoning for the very local but the very heavy precipitation across the central plains. Take clockwise flow at the surface around this area of high pressure, counterclockwise around this area of low pressure across the central plains here, and that leads to an area of convergence here where these surface winds kind of meet. You get upward vertical motion, and that in the form of showers and storms. And so again, there's that surface convergence and the reason for the locally heavy rains across parts of the central plains. As we take this out a couple of days, looking at the look now on Sunday morning, again, dominant area of high pressure across the central plains into the Corn Belt, keeping things drier once again across a big chunk of the Midwest. So let's look at the high resolution NAM model. This will take us through the weekend then. You're going to see the area of showers and storms across the central plains continuing here. You're seeing drier conditions across the central Corn Belt into the eastern Corn Belt. And again, we can look at the total accumulated precipitation that goes along with that. And there you see it. Very dry overall from, again, the central plains, the central Corn Belt into the eastern Corn Belt as we head through the weekend. Your corridor for precipitation really hanging out in this area across parts of the Dakotas into eastern Nebraska, eastern Kansas, and then off into the southern region. Severe weather, not any huge concerns right now as we look at the weekend forecast. Here is Friday at the top, Saturday, and then we've got Sunday. We've got a marginal risk for some stronger storms in this area across the central plains, maybe some damaging winds and large hail. Again, in a storm or two in that region. Same picture on Sunday, but this begins to sink out of the Corn Belt region. And again, dry across this area, no thunderstorms in the forecast, and then maybe an isolated strong storm or two off to the north on Saturday. We got a front sinking into the region here, attached to an area of low pressure across the Canadian prairies on Sunday, maybe bringing an isolated strong storm to parts of the Dakotas and northern Minnesota. And this will eventually sink through parts of the Corn Belt, bringing parts of Illinois, Iowa, Indiana, and Ohio, really our only shot of precipitation over the next 7 days on Tuesday. So let's look at the overall flow of the jet stream here. We're looking at 500 millibar height anomalies from the European weather model here. And again, here's the area of high pressure as we start off, looking at the beginning of the weekend here on Friday. I'm going to go ahead and we'll step through time with this one, though, and just show you the evolution of things. We're going to watch this trough begin to kind of rotate up and over the top of this ridge right now through first parts of western and southwestern Canada. And then let's go ahead and take this. We'll go through Saturday. Going into Sunday now, you're seeing it kind of amplify and rotate over the top of that, and we're getting this ridge to be kind of pinched right now as we head into early next week. And this is bringing, again, a front across the region, bringing a reinforcing shot of that milder, less humid air mass, bringing a chance of some thunderstorms here Tuesday and Wednesday to the eastern Corn Belt. But then as we take this out into late next week, again, you can see this amplified trough over the eastern United States, and that, again, keeps a reinforcing shot of some cooler and milder air pumping into the Corn Belt, with the ridge kind of being forced off to the west just a little bit, keeping the warmer temperatures off to the west. So we take a look at the actual flow within there at 500 millibars. Again, here we see the clockwise flow around that ridge. Some short waves embedded within that, patches of stronger winds kicking off some of those clusters of thunderstorms right now across the central plains. As we take this out, though, here is that trough, that upper level area of low pressure. You see the stronger patch of winds associated with that, rotating over the top of that ridge as we head into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then getting into the end of next week. You see that stronger flow coming around that area of low pressure, again now over parts of Montreal and Quebec. But again, this is just continuing to funnel in a milder and drier air mass to the eastern Corn Belt, which is not conducive for widespread significant rains. To kind of back that up now, we'll look at CAPE, atmospheric instability, the fuel for our thunderstorms. Again, this isn't the only thing that we need for thunderstorms, but without an unstable air mass, you really don't have that much to work with. So this will kind of, illustrate the point that I'm trying to make as we kind of forecast or take this into next week. So starting off right now, again, we've got some mild or moderate instability across parts of the central plains. This is helping aid in those showers and storms in that region. Higher atmospheric instability, you see some of the red colors across the Canadian prairies where we've got some significant severe weather possible as we get into the early parts of the weekend. We'll take this out, though, into early next week. I really want to get to Monday and Tuesday. This is when we start to pump in some more unstable, a warmer and more humid air mass into the central and the eastern Corn Belt. You start to see that being reflected with some orange colors in this region. Now we're starting to talk about more moderate to significant instability. We're starting to watch this front sink into the region now, though, from the north. Here comes the cold front, bringing a reinforcing shot of milder air from the north. This is also going to kick off some storms across the eastern Corn Belt, though, and this is going to be really our biggest hope for some rain over the next week. Is going to be this front coming into the area Tuesday and Wednesday, but watch what happens when it follows. I will show the precipitation forecast here in a minute, but check this out. The front clears the region, and we are once again nearly completely stable across the central and the eastern Corn Belt. This is looking at Thursday and Friday of next week, getting into the weekend, all the way into early next week, keeping this area quite stable. And again, that is just not a pattern that's going to suddenly get us back to more average levels across parts of Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio as we go through the next 7 days or the next 10 days, really. So you look at the dew point temperature anomaly now. So the dew point temperature is a measure of moisture in the air. And then we're looking at the anomaly. So how much more humid or how much less humid than seasonal levels are we? A bit difficult to kind of explain here early in the morning. And you're going to see a lot of blues and greens colors right now across the eastern Corn Belt from Iowa and Missouri eastward. And that is dew point temperatures anywhere from 5 to 15 degrees below normal. And that's what's made it feel a little bit more like maybe, early fall across this region, where we're not necessarily cool. Our high temperatures are in the mid 80s, which is certainly seasonally appropriate across the region. But with these dew point temperatures, we're waking up to crisp mornings. And again, it's not an air mass that's conducive to summertime pop-up thunderstorms or widespread storms across some of these fronts that move through the region. And so the reason I'm showing this, we're going to take this out into early next week. Let me get the scroll bar to show up here. As we get into early next week, you're starting to see more humid air mass return to the region. You're starting to see those orange colors, which is, actually more humid than average air mass across the region. But look off to the north, you can see the dividing line. Here is the front making its way into the region here Tuesday and Wednesday. And as we get into the later parts of next week, you really see that cooler, milder, less humid air mass sink back into the region, and that is just not one that is conducive to a rapid accumulation of precipitation across the region. So it should follow with our precipitation forecast that things will be relatively quiet across this region. So let's go ahead and let's play it out. Starting on Friday, here's our area of showers and storms across the Central Plains. We'll go ahead and we will scroll through time with this one. There we go, bringing it back to Friday, heading through the weekend. Again, watching things mostly dry across this region. No rain in the forecast across parts of Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio through the weekend. As we head into early next week now, we're into Monday. Here's the area of low pressure off to the north across the Canadian prairies. Here is the front being dragged along and off to the south of that, making its way into the Corn Belt region now Monday morning. As we get through the day on Monday, seeing some isolated to scattered showers and storms popping up across parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa, back into Nebraska along that front. Heading into the day now on Tuesday, that front settling into the eastern Corn Belt, seeing some scattered showers and storms now popping up from Iowa into Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. Scattered showers possible on the backside here off to the north across parts of the upper Midwest. Take the drawings off now, heading into the day on Wednesday. This front begins to clear the area of low pressure now well off to the north. Here comes the front, though, draped off to the south and to the southwest, extending back into the parts of the southern region. But by the time we get now to where we're at here Wednesday evening, we're starting to see that cooler, milder, less humid air mass swinging in on the backside. So the precipitation we're seeing popping up now across parts of this region is, light in the form of maybe some light showers on the backside. We'll take this all the way into late next week. Take the drawings off. Seeing maybe some showers and storms continuing across parts of the Central Plains. So good news for folks in parts of Kansas, maybe southern Missouri, or maybe not so good news if you've had excess precipitation here this week. But it does appear that this is where we're going to see the precipitation over the next 7 to 10 days in a widespread manner across the Corn Belt. Looking at the rest of the week, though, now we're into Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Check it out. High pressure settles back into the region, keeping things dry across the eastern and parts of the central Corn Belt, really. Anywhere besides the Dakotas into the Central Plains, keeping quite dry over the next 7 to 10 days. Finishing things out, looking very similar. This is all the way through next weekend now, so all the way to August 11th, keeping things dry in that region. So let's look at it one more time. Going through the weekend now, here is our area of showers and storms moving off to the south across the Central Plains. Getting into Saturday, and now Sunday. Monday, the front moves into the Dakotas, seeing some showers and storms across that region. Monday into parts of Minnesota and Wisconsin. Tuesday, seeing the front with showers and storms anywhere from Iowa, Illinois, Indiana into Ohio. Wednesday, the front clears the region, maybe some lingering precipitation from parts of the eastern Corn Belt here, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, maybe Indiana and Illinois. But then as we get into Thursday, dry. Friday, dry. Saturday, dry. The only place you're seeing precipitation pop up now is kind of along and southwest of that area. So really it's this corridor from Minnesota into Iowa, Illinois, and Indiana that really continue to look quite dry over the next 10 days overall. Total precipitation accumulation here, you're going to see it. We'll go ahead and we'll just pause it right now so I can show you what is causing what you see there. First, you'll see the heavy precipitation we've covered in depth across the Central Plains at this point between the forecasts over the last few days. Taking it all the way through Monday now. So through the weekend, no precipitation across this corridor here. The eastern Corn Belt, parts of southern Minnesota, much of the state of Iowa, remaining totally dry as we head through the weekend. Your only precipitation being found here across the central United States from the Dakotas into the Central Plains. That's your corridor for showers and storms as we look at the period from Friday through Monday. Taking the drawings off now, we'll look at the period here here's the frontal boundary now making its way across the region Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week, bringing scattered precipitation. When this front passes through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, some people are going to get no precipitation from this. There will be areas that get absolutely nothing. There are going to be some corridors here that maybe get some heavy rain from some of the stronger thunderstorms. If we get a better, more widespread cluster of thunderstorms, perhaps that would be good news, delivering some wider swath of some precipitation. But across parts of Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, some people simply are going to be dry for the next 7 days. This is not a front that's going to bring a widespread squall line through the region, dumping precipitation on everyone. It's just simply not. There are going to be some people here that are just completely dry for the next 7 days. Looking at the European model, the precipitation anomaly forecast for the next 10 days really hits on that corridor that I outlined, parts of Minnesota through Iowa, and then off to the south or off to the east and the southeast from there. This corridor here is the one that I'm watching now for some real dryness beginning to build in over the next 10 days or so. Again, here's your corridor of heavier precipitation from the Dakotas into the Central Plains. The GFS may be a little bit more optimistic. Off to the north, you're seeing this kind of more elongated corridor that maybe helps out parts of Minnesota a little bit more, dumping some more precipitation on the Dakotas. But if you look kind of the same area being outlined here, the eastern Corn Belt, still not being given a lot of love. And I would kind of lean towards the European model's look right here, really keeping things dry from Minnesota and Iowa into Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, and then perhaps northern portions of the Mid-South as well. Taking a look then to finish up with the temperature forecast, the high temperature forecast for the next 5 days. I think I've kind of drilled in the point here that, again, concerned about dryness, especially across the eastern Corn Belt. I'm really kind of drawing in this area here that I'm going to really be focused on for that we need to watch together for drier conditions building in. Now, the good news, as we will see when we look at the high temperature forecast here, it's not as if it's extreme heat and drought that are going to be building into the eastern Corn Belt. This is dry, but it's also mild. It's going to be mild. It's going to be less humid, so it's a drier air mass, but it's not one that's going to be having high temperatures in the mid to upper 90s or anything like that. So a drier but mild look across the eastern Corn Belt for the next 10 days or so. Now we'll talk about the high temperatures. We'll finish it up here. Cooler, of course, where we got the widespread showers and storms. Your high temperature is only in mid 70s, which is certainly much cooler than average across the Central Plains. Here's your high temperatures for the day: Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then Tuesday. We're starting to see that front move in. You see those high temperatures in the 70s off to the north, starting to get a more typical early August look across the Corn Belt. Again, high temperatures in the upper 80s. Talking about the eastern Corn Belt specifically here, Iowa through Ohio. But as we get into Tuesday and Wednesday, we'll start to see that front move back into the region, bringing back that milder and less humid air mass as we head into mid to late next week. As always, Eric Snodgrass will have an in-depth look at the next 1 to 2 weeks in our Monday morning Ag Forecast video, and I'll have your next look at the Corn Belt region on Tuesday morning. Have a great day and a wonderful weekend.